علي ولي الله غضب العلوي تفجر الله أكبر حيدر 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 الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله لا إله إلا الله علي ولي الله غضب العلوي تفجر.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Basically, this is the part 3 of our part 4 series on Wilaya, the aspect of imamat and legal authority of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, the Prophet's family. The first series we talk about the aspect of Wilayat al-Muhabbat, the aspect of loving the Prophet's family and how it's obligatory to love and follow them. On the second series last week, we talked a bit about the aspect of Khilafah, that's the aspect of successorship, the definition of a Khalif, how it's appointed, and how the Prophet's family were the true successors of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We gave a bit of the proofs. So we mentioned Hadith al-Thaqalain, Hadith al-Khalifatain, where the Prophet said, I leave for you 2 Khalifas, successors. Introducing Sayyid Ali as well now. Good timing. So we mentioned Thaqalain, we mentioned Khalifatain. Throughout the Prophet's whole life, from the day he first received Risalat, which is at age 40, he mentioned the aspect of the walayat of Imam Ali alayhi salam, where we actually never mentioned this reference last time, but when the Prophet gave his Dawat al-Ashira, his first proclaim to prophethood, he invited a number of his companions and close family to a dinner. And in that dinner, he said, which of you will be my wasi, my akhi, my khalif after me? 3 times Imam Ali stood up and Rasulullah told him to sit down. On the 3rd time he said, "O Ali, you are my akhi, my wasi, and my khalifa, my brother, my vicegerent, and my successor." This was at the beginning of his life, and then you had so many incidents until the end of his life, from that hadith, from Ghadir, from Thaqalain, from Khalifatain.
Zan, sorry to interrupt. Just in terms of what you just said, do you know the reference to heart for that?
Dawat al-Ashira can be found in the tafsir. I think it's Surah 28, verse number 40, where it says, proclaim your message to those closest to you. I might be wrong on the verse, but the tafsir of that verse is by Tabari.
So Surah is 26, and the verse is 214.
Okay, so 26, 214.
Yeah, so warn thy nearest kinfolk. So when that was revealed as the narrative that you narrated, what happened? So in terms of, I'll let you carry on with the narration, but in terms of the referencing for it, Imam Tabari, who's a massive Sunni authority, he's a muwarrikh, meaning a historian, a muhaddith, and a mufassir, meaning he's a transmitter of traditions, a muhaddith, and also he is a mufassir. His tafsir on the Quran is one of what you call one of the best Sunni tafsirs that Sunni authorities rely upon. So he's narrated this both in his tafsir as well as his tariq. Yep, so go on.
But I think there's a little bit of an abridgment in one of those versions. So in his tafsir, he had it there. But when it came to his tariq,
I think it's one, basically, sometimes what happens is in a lot of Sunni literature, there's a lot of tarif, meaning certain hadiths and certain incidents get taken out in new editions, basically because it supports our point of view. So Tabri's one's interesting because if I'm not mistaken, and I will check it throughout this lecture, in his tariq, it's there, from my understanding. In his tafsir, underneath the same verse, when he says it, because the Prophet explicitly says in that incident, he says, you are my successor, my wazir, my successor, my inheritor, my brother. So what Tabri does is he says, you're my brother, qadha, meaning, oh, fulan, fulan, so and so on. So he basically takes that last part out. But in his tariq, he narrates it fully. So yeah, you can carry on that.
Yeah, it's also mentioned in non-Muslim sources as well. Edward Gibbon wrote a book called The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. He has a chapter on the life of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, and he specifically mentions this particular incident as well, that the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him and his family, invited his family, and that's when he nominated Imam Ali alayhi salam to be his successor from the very start of his mission.
Nice one. So that was the aspect of Khilafah, of successorship. From the time of the Prophet, when he first received his Risalat, all the way until he passed away, he kept mentioning, Ali is my Khalifa, Ali is my Khalifa, Ali is my Khalifa. So this was actually of a hukum of Allah, a command of Allah. And you have an ayat of the Quran, and that says, I believe it's Surah 49 verse 1, it says, O you who believe, be careful in the way you proclaim to Allah. I'm paraphrasing here, forgive me. But it says, it is not for deciding men and women to have a say in a matter when Allah has given His command. And this is the aspect of the walayat of Ali in terms of khilafat, successorship, that nobody has a say to decide who their khalif will be, who their successor would be. It's purely a command, a hukum of Allah and His Rasul. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose his caliph. Today we wanted to talk a bit about the political aspect. So we know that Imam Ali is the first caliph by the words of Rasulullah. Now, what was his reaction? Or towards the end of the Prophet, how did the companions of the Prophet react to this? How did they take it? How did they see it? What did they do? Towards the end of the Prophet, did he mention it again? What happened just following the events towards the end of the Prophet's life? In the events, for example, in Saqifa and Wafulan, etc. This is what we wanted to touch up onto today. So, what we're going to go into a bit is towards the end of the Prophet's life, when he was on his deathbed, and look a bit at the tragedy of Thursday. And bear in mind, if you guys have any questions as we're going along, feel free to ask them, it's no issue. So, we're going to touch up a bit about the tragedy of Thursday. Sayyid Ali, I think that's your headstrong. Do you want to go for it? Is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, sure. I said he received his Risalat at age 40. So the brother's question was, I said he received his Risalat at age 40. What do you mean by that? So from day one, when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born, he was a Nabi. Yeah? Every Prophet from the beginning of their life is a Nabi. At age 40, he received his first revelation. Yes? So he became he had his first revelation, he got his first message. He always knew he was a prophet from the day he was born, but he received his first revelation at age 40. So he was a Rasul, I guess make a small mistake. He was a Rasul from the day he was born, but he received his first revelation at age 40. Like Prophet Jesus, for example, in the Quran, when he spoke from the cradle, he spoke as a baby and said, I am a Nabi of Allah. So he knew from day one he was a prophet. Whereas our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he received his first revelation at age 40, but he was a Rasul and a Nabi from day one.
Yeah, so basically it's just, as a summary, all prophets and imams are born as prophet and imams. The only difference is they announce it at different times. So the Prophet announced it at 40, but by khalq, even his nur was always created at the beginning, and they were prophets from the beginning. So how can it be our prophet? Because the reason why it's a good question, because I think in a lot of Sunni beliefs that comes that the Prophet became a prophet at 40. It's incorrect terminology, because that in itself, Nabi Isa is in a baby. As a baby, he's saying, Ana Abdullah. So he's saying, I'm a slave of Allah. As a baby, I'm a prophet of Allah. Our prophet at 40, he's figuring it out. So astaghfirullah, that's completely a thing. It's basically that he's born a prophet, he announces it when he's 40. So that's just the correction. Carry on, sir.
Yeah, just adding to that point as well, we completely reject the notion that the Prophet had a heart bypass of any kind where he had a black dot removed from his heart. Even though there's numerous occasions apparently which this black dot was removed. I think one of the last ones was when he went on the Miraj and he had this black dot removed from his heart, and this black dot was known as a doubt, as the claim. So coming back to the point on the
just before you continue, I think there's a sister with a question. Go on, sister.
Sorry for my English, but if it's so clear about the information and who will be the successor, why doesn't people accept this stuff and exclude all this kind of information if people are on haqq?
Yeah. So let me just paraphrase, sister. So what you're saying is basically if it's so wadih, if it's so clear that Allah and the Prophet chose Imam Ali, why is the question? Why is it that the Sunni brothers don't know this or they don't act upon it? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay. So Sayyid Ali Razan, if I take that, or Hilona?
Yeah, go for it then, inshallah.
So so in terms of not in terms of when we speak, in terms of when we're growing up, we get taught certain things. The common person in their school won't know these things. So the common person up until a certain age will say, the Prophet said, the Prophet said, I leave for you the Quran and Sunnah. He doesn't even know that the Prophet said Quran and Ahlul Bayt. So you can imagine how much propaganda there is, that the person doesn't even know this basic, let alone the Prophet saying Ali's the Khalif. So it's all about your surroundings, how you're raised. If you're asking me, do their scholars know? Because the common person won't know. The common person's like us. What we're told is what we're told. They're in the same position as us. Alhamdulillah, we were raised in this household. They wasn't. In terms of their scholars, do they know? Yeah, some of their scholars might know. But again, you know, if the scholars mention these kind of things, then they might as well say bye to their salaries and, you know, whatever, how they're living. A lot of them make livings on this. And it's become like a business. Everyone's got a mosque to run. Everyone's got a community. No one wants to take that step. You know, sometimes, look at communities. Even if you marry outside, let's just say your own ethnic group, even sometimes your own families don't accept you. So imagine a Sunni imam leaving Sunniism and becoming Shia. Imagine how much bias and stick he has to take. So it's a big step for them to start saying stuff like this. Or the minute you start mentioning Imam Ali's name excessively, you're accused of being a Shia. So even Sunni scholars that mention Imam Ali's name excessively, Sunni scholars themselves say, oh, this person's become a Shia, even though they're Sunni. So it's really, they literally don't let you move. So I guess that's basically a little khulasa towards it. But yeah, you can continue and ask me something else if you want. Yeah. 1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, some Shia, I don't know, claims that Sunni sources are wrong. But if they knew and were writing the Sunni scholars all the information, so how could it be like you don't accept from the Sunni sources? You understand how?
Yeah. So what you're saying is that.
So were the scholars liars?
Yeah, no. So
were writing and narrating stuff.
Yeah. So basically, if Sunni ulama have written certain hadiths in their books, so of course the way it works is as a usul. We have the traditions from the Prophet's family. Yeah, in our books. Whatever comes in their books, whatever agrees with the Prophet's family is truth. Whatever disagrees with the Prophet's family is false. That's the principle. So if it agrees with what the Prophet's family said, that means it's true. If it disagrees or it's a tanaqud, it's a complete opposite, we say that is not from the Prophet. So if in their books it says the Prophet said Ali for the Quran and Sunnah, and the Prophet's family have always said no, he never said that, that's our mizan, that's our scale to figure out what's right and wrong. Of course, the barakah of Allah is that He's put truth in their books as well. Meaning there's so much truth in Sunni books that alhamdulillah we're able to present our case. And that's a blessing that we have. Yeah, that's
if I could just add on to that part of the question, yeah, Raza, is fine. In terms of the Sunni scholars lying or choosing, I would say it's more of a case of censorship. So for example, when I quoted Tabari, and when the Prophet said, "Oh Ali, you are my akhi, wasi wa khalifati, you are my brother, you are my vicegerent, you are my khalifa." Tabari, he hid this. He changed it and he said the words of wa fulan, and so and so. So there's a great level of censorship, and this is just one example. Maybe inshallah in future we can do a whole series of things which were actually came down authentically in our own books, and then how some of the scholars and some of the hadith books, mainly Bukhari, had a great level of censorship to them. A great level. When it comes to people's names, they would say wa fulan. When it comes to people's attributes, they would degrade the status of Imam Ali by a great level, just so that they can elevate the status of other companions around him. It's a great level of censorship, and it comes down primarily to, and Rasulullah told us, he said that saying my name will never be okay in 1,000 generations. Imam Ali's saying is there for us. And it's primarily that aspect that you would have to reject your whole community, your whole sect, and everything which you were taught in from a child, which is very difficult. So I can understand where they're coming from. But the case of censorship, it's pretty much known, but they choose to hide it.
Yeah, adding to the censorship, it's part of their belief not to discuss the disputes amongst the Sahaba as well. I mean, even when it comes to the incident of Karbala, for those who might not be aware, Ghazali mentioned that, you know, we shouldn't really talk about what happened in Karbala, because if we start questioning, you know, the decisions made when it comes to obviously having Imam Hussein murdered and his family and his companions, it would open opportunity to criticize who put him in power. And as we know, who put him in power was his father, Muawiyah. So. Yeah. So yeah, coming back to the point of Calamity of Thursday, obviously as we know, what led to the martyrdom of Sayyidah Fatima Salamu alayha was many factors, including Saqifa, obviously, as we are aware, and the incident of Thursday, known as Yawm al-Khamis. This incident is a well-documented incident in Sunni literature. It's mentioned throughout Bukhari and Muslim, and this particular hadith is narrated on the authority of Ibn Abbas, who was a very young individual at the time. I know some people try to cast doubts about the age of Ibn Abbas, but what we do know is that the Sunni ulama, they deemed him reliable because as part of their belief, they consider every companion to be just and truthful. So this hadith is a very powerful narration which kind of unfolds the reality, not just what happened to the Holy Prophet, but what led to the martyrdom of Sayyidah Fatima, which unfortunately a lot of Muslims are not aware. So within this incident of Calamity of Thursday, we say that the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, was going to write his will out, and at that point, a particular individual, as we all know, Umar, refused to give the Prophet pen and paper and started questioning his insanity.
Let me write something for you so that
Yeah,
you can go straight.
and it's very clear from the words of the Holy Prophet when he said, you know, come, let me write you something which you will never go astray. Which is very similar to the words which he mentioned at Ghadir as well. As we know, on the day of Ghadir, he said he mentioned, the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, said, I'll leave you two weighty things, the Quran and my Ahlul Bayt. So it's quite clear, as we know, that, you know, even on his deathbed, he was going to write out this will. Some also argue, why is it that the will was not written out afterwards? I mean, there's two elements to that. The first element is that if the Prophet's been called delirious,
What happened? What did they say when he tried to write the will?
yeah,
They said what?
he's a madman.
He's a delirious.
Madman.
The Quran is sufficient for us.
The Quran is sufficient for us, yes. Which is kind of similar to the belief of some Muslims today when they always ask us to prove the concept of imamah from the Quran alone. So this is, you know, I don't know if you want to add anything further to the incident of Thursday.
Yeah, so it was just the aspect that towards the end of the Prophet's life, the Prophet on several occasions wanted to mention that Imam Ali was a Khalif, and he did. And now on his deathbed, he's saying, let me write something for you so that you will never go astray. And anybody who's just living at home in today's society, if somebody asks for a pen and paper and is putting extreme sort of emphasis on it, you'd give it to him. There would be no question of a doubt whether you give the person a pen and paper or not. And this is the Prophet of Islam. The Prophet of Islam is saying, give me a pen or paper so you will never go astray. It's got nothing to do with you. You have no right to give your own opinion at this point and say, no, don't give him the paper. Don't give him the pen. And so now this particular companion said, no, this man is delirious. The Quran is sufficient for us. Now, I think Raza knows a little bit about actually what happened after. Did the Prophet actually end up writing a will, or did he actually mention, people would say, okay, fair enough, they tried. The Prophet, as soon as this statement was made, the Prophet told everyone to leave the room. Ibn Abbas, till the day he died, remembered this incident. He used to cry so much about it. So what did the Prophet do afterwards? Did he not say what he intended to write in that will? Did he not mention it afterwards? A lot of people will raise this point. Raza, do you want to take it from there?
So 2 points. So yeah, again, you know, I'm concerned about timing as well because I know we've got quite a bit to get through. So I will keep it as a summary. So the Prophet wanted to write a will. Before writing the will, the Prophet already nominated Imam Ali as Khalif. Remember, the Prophet's just cementing it now. Ghadir's gone, Hajj is done, Dawat al-Ashira is done. All the riwayah of the Prophet is clear now. He's already left his successor. Now what he's doing is, let me write it for you as basically a complete evidence. He's already done what he had to do. Now when he's been stopped by Umar and said, Umar's called him delirious, astaghfirullah. When that's happened, Ibn Abbas, there's a narration in Muslim that mentions that when the Prophet was about to pass away, he advised us or gave us a wasiyah of 3 things. If I'm not mistaken, one was the way that delegates come to me, make sure you treat them in the same way. I think the second one was to take the pagans out of the Arab lands, and then, or the specific Makkah, Medina. And then the third one, the narrator goes, and the third one I forgot. So the third one, what was that third one? The third one I forgot. So you see, again, maybe it's very convenient that you forgot the third one, because maybe the third one would have been, and Imam Ali is the Khalif after me, he's the successor. But that one they completely missed out. So again, maybe they never let the Prophet write it, but he said it. Also, interestingly enough, in our traditions, in our books, Kitab Sulaim bin Qais, it mentions that Imam Ali, that the Prophet actually did write the will to Imam Ali afterwards. After in the room, he called Imam Ali back in. After he told them all to get out, and Imam Ali came back in and they spoke, the Prophet actually did write a will. So keep that in mind, that from our traditions, that does come as well. In terms of, someone could say, let's just say from a Sunni point of view, why didn't he write the will? Sayyid Ali made a good point, and he hinted at it, that if you've been called delirious, what happens now is that if you now persist to write that will, because remember, the Prophet's hikmah is incomprehensible. We have no idea how wise the Prophet was. When he never decided to write it, it was because, let's just say the Prophet wrote it today. Today, between us and the Sunni ulama, do you know what we'd be debating? We'd be debating, astaghfirullah, is the Prophet's will, in the sense of delirious, when he's delirious, is it acceptable or not? So the debate would have been different. The debate would have been, if the Prophet's delirious, is his word still hujjah? Is the word still a proof or not? So the whole debate would have changed. So therefore the Prophet, and some ulama have written, who told you that the wahi was for the Prophet to say Imam Ali is the Khalif? Who told you? Maybe Allah told the Prophet not to write it afterwards. That's also wahi. If the wahi can be to write it, the wahi can be not to write it as well afterwards, as a hikmah. So that's the element. Sayyid Ali, do you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, numerous scholars actually mentioned that the Prophet was going to nominate a successor. So it's not something which is unusual. If we make a claim saying that the Prophet was going to nominate a successor, or well, he already had nominated a successor, but was going to physically write a will, they've confirmed that he was going to do that.
The issue, even they say that he was going to write a will. Sister, you want to say something? Do you want to ask something?
Yeah,
go for it.
I was wondering, why did the people do bay'ah when, if Allah chosen Imam Ali as a Khalifa, so why went other people and was like, who wants to be the Khalifa, and we vote?
So keep on afterwards. Sister, you know what it is? Look, the thing with the words of Allah and the Prophet, the thing is, we're dealing with the government here. A lot of the people that had become Muslim, imagine Imam Ali is a character, is a personality whose sword, even Sunni scholars say this, that there was not one family where someone in their family wasn't killed by Imam Ali's sword. Meaning there was someone from every family that could say, okay, my mushrik uncle was killed, my mushrik cousin was killed, and this man Imam Ali killed him. So a lot of people became Muslim, but they hated Imam Ali, which is obviously an oxymoron, because the Prophet said, in the narration in Muslim, only a mu'min will love you and only a munafiq will hate you. So you can't be a Muslim and hate Ali. It doesn't exist. So therefore what happens is, a lot of people didn't want to accept Imam Ali. They would accept anyone, but they can't accept Imam Ali. So that's why also the people that became Muslim, they said, listen, we've become Muslim to the Prophet, that's fine, but don't tell us how to rule. A lot of the Sahaba, the way we think is the way we think about the Prophet, we think whatever he would do, we would do it. Whatever he says, we would do it. Their connotation was different. Their connotation was, we'll listen to what you say, but if it disagrees with us, we'll reject it. It doesn't mean that everything the Prophet says I'm going to accept. So there was aspects in the Prophet's life where the Prophet would tell the companions something, but they would say, well, we're not going to accept that. So it wasn't that everyone would, think the Prophet, whatever he says, we have to accept it. So with the ruling of the Khilafah, the Quraysh had made up their mind. The Quraysh had said, listen, that's fine, you've brought the message and you're the Prophet and we've accepted you just about. But in terms of ruling, no, that's not for your family. We will rule.
I think there's a famous saying, I think it's by Abu Sufyan, who said, well, Bani Hashim had Nubuwah, you think we're going to give them Khilafah as well?
Yeah, or so Umar said, the Quraysh should not accept that Nubuwah and Imama be in one family.
Yep.
Sayyid, Bani Hashim, Sayyid, you got a question?
Can you give us an example of something that they didn't accept?
Who didn't accept, sorry?
The Sahaba around the Prophet.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a book we have at home. It's called Al-Nas wal-Ijtihad. I can't remember the scholar on top of my head. I think it's by Al-Amali, if I'm not incorrect, Raza. Al-Nas wal-Ijtihad.
There's a book on this subject. It's a very good question, Sayyid asked. There's a book on this subject called Al-Nas wal-Ijtihad. Al-Nas means in Arabic, and in jurisprudence, unequivocal text. Meaning it's a text that can't be reinterpreted. Example, the Prophet said, pray 5 times. You can't say that means 6. Because 5 is 5. That's what you call nas. And wal ijtihad means you apply your independent reasoning on something that's clear. So if the Prophet said 5, I can't say, oh, I think the Prophet meant 6. No, it doesn't work like that. So Sayyid Abdul Hussain al-Sharif al-Musawi, he's the Musannif of Al-Murajat, where he had a munadhara with the Egyptian scholar. He's got a book called Al-Nas wal-ijtihad. In that book, he mentions numerous examples. He mentions numerous examples of the companions in the time of the Prophet going against certain rulings of the Prophet. And while I'm going to go check that now, the question that Sayyid asked, so while you lot continue, I'll check specific instances, yeah?
So basically in that book, it gives a list of actions, of references, of everything that the Prophet said, do this, and where the companions went against it and they said, do this. On the top of my head, just think of a couple of examples. There was the Osama bin Zayd, where he was told to lead the expedition. There were certain companions who said, no, we're not going to go for it. During the end of the Prophet's life, the Prophet was very sick. Just before the incident, the tragedy of Thursday we were mentioning, he said, everyone go under the expedition of a Sahabi called Osama bin Zayd. Now the Prophet was stressing so much to the extent where he came out in his drapes outside of his house and he said, go, 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 lanat on the one who does not go. The curse of Allah is on the one who does not go. And there were still companions who were saying, no, we're not going to go. That was just one example. And then he gives it about Fadak, he gives it about the Fadak of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. Several instances where the Prophet said one thing, told people to do one thing, and where the companions did another. Just in
just a quick, Sayyid Mohsin gave me a good example there. In Ghadir, when the announcement was made for Imam Ali's Walaya, there was a Sahabi there who said that, is this, I think the narrative goes that, is it from you or is it from Allah? So he's asking the Prophet, are you saying this? So imagine he's saying to the Prophet, is it from you, astaghfirullah, have you come with this from yourself? Are you trying to leave your family? Or is it from Allah? The Prophet said, anything I say is from Allah. He said, if this is the case, let a punishment from Allah come down and strike me. Or let me be punished, because I do not want to, basically he doesn't want to accept it. So the Ghadir announcement's there and he doesn't want to accept it. At that moment in time, a rock came from the heavens and struck him on the head and killed him instantly. And there's a verse related to this, and I'm going to check this out, unless any of you not know the verse by heart.
I think it's Surah 70, I can't remember.
I'll check the verse out now and tell you the reference for it as well. That there was a verse for this that came down where it says, I think something on the lines of, a questioner asked about his punishment, etc., etc. So I'm going to check this out, for that was one instant, and then there's other instances as well on it. So
just going back to the sister's point, I didn't get a chance to touch up on it, but I would say there was 3 groups of people at the time of the Prophet: those who gave bay'ah to Abu Bakr, those who gave bay'ah to Imam Ali, and those who chose to remain silent on the issue. What you have to understand is a lot of the companions were under a very stressful political situation, and that was anybody who would openly give bay'ah to Imam Ali or show love towards him was killed. And we have numerous scenarios of this. One example of this is Malik ibn Nuwayra. This was a Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He used to collect taxes for him, and after the Prophet passed away, he says, I'm not going to pay taxes to Abu Bakr. And for this he was actually beheaded. He was killed by Khalid bin Walid, and his wife was raped the same night. Other instances, Hujr bin Adi Kindi, he says, I refuse to curse Imam Ali. When Muawiyah started to institute the cursing of Imam Ali, he said, no, I'm not going to curse him. He was killed. I think he was put into a camel and he was burnt alive.
That's Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr.
Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr. There's so many, sorry, I get them mixed up sometimes.
Yeah.
Other companions, every single, Abu Dawud al-Ghafari, killed, exiled to the Rab of the desert. Every single Sahabi who showed love towards Imam Ali was killed. So this was a very stressful political situation. That's why a lot of the people chose to remain silent, and that was like a large proportion of them. Other people gave bay'ah to either.
Just a quick thing, again, Sayyid's question, because I want something clear on that matter. Something clear is the Prophet said, in terms of writing down tradition. So the Prophet said that he who has written down knowledge or a tradition from me will be granted with divine reward, as long as that knowledge or tradition will remain. Yeah. So that hadith is from the Prophet. So in terms of writing, the Prophet always encouraged the people to write. What was known about the policy of Abu Bakr Umar, as soon as they became caliphs for the Sunnis, they said don't write. So they burnt down traditions of hadiths, and they said no one's allowed to narrate hadith. Yeah. So what I'm trying to, so that is a clear contradiction where the Prophet's saying write, and you're saying don't write. And the thing where this is always hard for scholars to get out of is because the person who endorsed the writing was actually Umar bin Abdul Aziz. So he done a couple of good works. Number one, he stopped the la'an of Imam Ali. Number two, he said, I want you to start narrating hadith and writing hadith books now. So the point is that if he's a good guy, then what is Abu Bakr Umar? Because they said not to write. And the Prophet said to write. So therefore that's a clear hukum that they went against. So inshallah, I think we should continue now. Go on. What's the next subject now? Where are we on? We're on towards...
we just finished on the tragedy.
I think Sayyid Mohsin just reminded me. Again, when the Prophet passed away, now we've seen the calamity of Thursday. There was a narration of Aisha. Again, it's in Muslim. I think it's Muslim, where a group of people come up to her, because what we're trying to show you right now is this view, this belief of the Khilafah of Imam Ali. It's not something that we've made up. It was very common at that time. So a group of people came up to Aisha and said, "Oh, what is this we're hearing about the wasiyah for the Khilafah of Imam Ali?" So they asked her, "What is this we're hearing about the successorship of Imam Ali?" So my point here is that, and I answer the tradition. Aisha says, What tradition about Khilafah of Imam Ali? There's nothing like that. How could the Prophet have said something like that when he died in my lap, and he died so quickly? So what she's trying to say is it's impossible that that's happened because he died on my lap. Contradiction number one, he never died on her lap. Imam Hakim in his Mustadrak says that Sayyidah Salma says that Salma narrates a tradition that the Prophet died in Imam Ali's lap. So therefore he wasn't with Aisha when he passed away. So therefore that narration is false. Now if that's false, why is Aisha trying to hide it? What she's trying to do is basically say that don't mention this, because obviously she's trying to avoid the subject. Now therefore people knew at that time the Prophet said something about Imam Ali. Everyone's asking about it. Everyone's saying, look, what did the Prophet say? And Aisha's saying, no, he never said nothing, he passed away, he never said nothing to me, but he never passed away with you. So therefore again, that's an incident related to the pen and paper, and it continues on. Sister, go on.
How the Prophet passed away, is it only narrated in your tradition or even in the Sunnis? Like, do they only have he died in Aisha's?
There's a hadith mentioned in Musnad Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and it's a Sahih tradition from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who picked an oath on numerous occasions that the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, was murdered. Okay, how he was murdered, that's another debate for another time. So in terms of how he was killed, according to our account, it's even mentioned in Sunni narrations. So
yeah,
it's not something unusual.
And in terms of what the sister was saying, if you were, that's in the narrative of how the Prophet passed away. If you're asking specifically, sister, about where he passed away or who he passed away with, was that the context of your question? Yeah, where? So with who? And is that in our books or is that in Sunni books as well? Okay, so in our books it's there, but it's also in Sunni books. Yeah, so one is Imam Hakim's Mustadrak, but the reference I have in front of me is Imam Abu Ya'la in his Musnad, volume 12, page 404. That's a Sunni reference, where it says that Salma swears by the last one of people who was with the Prophet was Ali. On the day when the Prophet died, he sent for Ali, who I thought had been sent for some need. He began asking 3 times, has Ali come? When he came, we knew that there was something private with him. Therefore, we left the house. On that day, we had visited the house in Aisha's house. I was the last one who left the room. This is Salma. And sat the closest to the door. Ali bent down on him, so he was the last one to be with him. He was telling him secrets and confiding some things to him. And that's classified as Sahih. Imam Abu Ya'la in his Musnad, volume 12, page 404. So you see, even in Sunni narrations, it mentions that he passed away with Imam Ali. So Aisha's claim, one's telling the truth and one's a lie. It has to be. They can't both be true. So yeah.
Say, adding to that, we can demonstrate from history other occasions where Aisha withheld information. For example, when the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him and his family, instructed Imam Ali alayhi salam to lead the Salah. And the tradition mentions that Ibn Abbas, perhaps Ibn Abbas, actually it might have been Abbas, and Imam Ali alayhi salam carried him to the masjid. According to the tradition of Musannif Ibn Abi Shayba, Aisha withheld the information of the second individual who carried the Prophet to the mosque. And the author actually mentions that Aisha had something in her heart against Imam Ali alayhi salam. So to withhold the fact that the Prophet wrote a will, it wouldn't surprise me, as we know from her nature that unfortunately she had a habit of lying, and we can demonstrate that from even the Holy Quran. Surah Tahrim is a prime example where we can see how Aisha not only she lied about numerous things. What can you say?
There was definitely some animosity. I think a lot of it is to do with animosity towards Imam Ali. There was clearly an issue between her, her issue with Imam Ali. So based on those bias, she would do things like that. Yeah. I
think from a psychological aspect, you've got to ask yourself the question is, why all this hate for the Ahl al-Bayt? Why all this hate for Imam Ali? And it's a common question. We mention it a lot, but where is it coming from? I guess it's the aspect of anyone who kind of endorses or follows the successor before him in the true way. Remember, the truth is a hard thing to accept. If you're going to accept that equality, to get rid of poverty, to treat everyone fairly, and follow the Prophet's path, you're going to get a lot of hate naturally. And so if you have this man who's coming forward and is going to endorse all of these things, people don't like that sort of behavior. Remember, people from their human nature are envious and jealous in that nature. And so it was this kind of aspect that sort of swayed people or the reason for hatred towards Imam Ali, especially because in battles, he killed a lot of the opposition. Yeah. So a lot of people that started to come to Islam afterwards from the opposing side of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they came to Islam afterwards, Imam Ali, they would still have hatred towards him because he's the one who killed a lot of the members of his own family. I think it was in a khutbah by Bibi Zainab bin Shama. I think it was in Nahj al-Balagha by Imam Ali, where he says to Muawiyah, look, I'm the one that killed your uncle, your cousin, and your brother. Yeah? I'm the one who killed your cousin, your uncle, your brother, after he tried fighting him at Siffin. So there was a lot of this hatred because he had killed a lot of their family.
You know, I'm just going to jump on from there because obviously, go on, Sayyid Ali, go on. Sayyid Ali, you want to say something?
Yeah, plus adding to the incident of Ifk, I don't know if many of you guys are aware of it, but this is quite an interesting account. There's a non-Muslim author, a woman, I can't remember her surname, her name is Leslie, and she wrote a book called The Succession to Muhammad, and she quite clearly mentions in there that Aisha bore a grudge from the incident of Ifk when he advised the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, to divorce Aisha.
Even, you see, even with that narrative, again, like, it depends even if you take the incident of Ifk to be true.
Yeah.
Meaning, according to our school,
we have a
whole different thing to anyway. So it depends which one you take. If you take it, fine. But if you don't, it doesn't exist anyway. No, he's right. He's right. He's talking about, he's in the right thing. Now, just based on that, I want to get down to a couple of issues because Zan mentioned it as well. Imam Ali's wars. So you see, after now, look, we've got about Khilafah. Abu Bakr, Umar have taken over. After they've done what they've done, they've then attacked the house of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra. When they've attacked the house of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra, again, I'm going to mention 1-2 references for this, and I'm going to move forward all the way down to Imam Ali's time. I want to talk about a couple of his wars because it's important for you to understand the historical references. Because what did the Prophet say anything about Imam Ali's wars from Sunni Hadith books? This is very important. So in terms of them attacking the house of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra, the two major references that you can know is one is Tabari in his Tarikh. Almost all major historians have mentioned this. People can say the chain's weak, people can say this is weak. The point is every historian's mentioned it. So that means you might as well throw all the history books out if they're all weak. So Imam Tabari in his Tariq mentions it, number 1. Ibn Athir in his Kamil mentions it, number 2. Imam Ibn Abi Shaybah, who was one of the teachers of Imam Muslim, he mentions it in his Musannaf, and that chain is Sahih, by the way. It's quite a strong chain. So all of these traditions mention that they came to the house and they threatened they threatened the house and they said, if you don't come out and give bay'ah, we will burn the house. So this is not something that's...
This is just after the Prophet's passed away.
Obviously,
the Prophet hasn't had even his janazah yet. He hadn't had his ghusl on his body. There's no funeral prayers for him. You had this group gathering at the house of Abu Bakr and saying, get the bay'ah from Imam Ali first.
Yeah, they were obsessed with, because they knew...
So why were they stressing so much to go to Imam Ali's house if he never appointed Imam Ali as a caliph?
Because obviously they want Imam, if they know if that Imam, it's like, in Yazid's time, when Yazid wanted to get, why did he want to go for Imam Hussein? Because if Imam Hussein accepts, everyone will accept. Because he's the main guy. In the same way, if Imam Ali, wields to them, then everyone else will wield. And they knew that Imam Ali wasn't going to wield. So that's that. In most Sunni traditions, it just stops there. They threatened, etc. So it's there in those books like that.
What did they do? What did they bring to the house?
So in the traditions, it mentions they brought wood to burn the house.
There was a conversation back and forth with Fatima.
So Umar says to Fatima Zahra, if you lot don't come out and enter into what the Ummah has entered, meaning the Bay'ah Abu Bakr, will burn down the house. Someone said, Ya Umar, do you know Fatima's inside? He said, even so.
Someone might say, well, he never actually went on to further burn down the house.
Enough.
I mean, are we really going to play that game? Isn't it enough for you that a man is coming outside the door of the Prophet and threatening to burn it down? Is that not sufficient?
It's funny because to understand that whole aspect, because remember, we're raised in a certain way. I don't expect Sunni brothers and sisters to listen to this and for them it's hard to accept this because they've seen Umar growing up. They love Umar growing up. They've been told he's he's a great man, he's got great history, he was a warrior, full on, etc., etc. So for them, of course, when they hear this, they're going to be like, how can that be true? But it's in the books. So it just depends on how objective you want to be, because it's in the books. If you don't want to add to that, you can, but I want to go to Imam Ali's war. So Sayyid Ali, if you want to add something, because I know you've been here.
Yeah, so in terms of censorship, it's part of the belief to hide away things of what the Sahaba did. So it's not unbelievable to to acknowledge the fact that many of the major scholars would have probably concealed the reality behind it, what actually took place. There's contradictions in terms of the Bayah story anyway. Some traditions say it was immediately, some say 6 months, and some talk about, some say 3 days. So there's contradictions in terms of when the Bayah happened. Of course, even if we were to accept that, Umar threatened Sayyidah Fatima Salam alayha, and that's about it, and there was no actual attack on the door, that act alone itself, according to their traditions, is an act of disbelief to frighten another Muslim and to bring weapons to their house. So, let alone, of course, the daughter of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon her.
Rationally speaking, I don't really understand what is the reason behind people rejecting it. As in, we know the companions had wars, we know they had animosity, and they've done a lot. I wouldn't say worse things, but they've done things which were equally bad towards each other in terms of the way they burnt each other, the way they killed each other, the way they raped each other's wives, like I mentioned on Malik ibn Nuwayra. So now, what is it that's actually making you come forward and say, you know what, there's no way he could have come outside the house?
Yeah, I think it's that obviously you've been raised up with someone's love, so naturally you're not going to accept incidents like that. But that's what I'm trying to say to you, especially like this. Someone asked the other day about, when you speak about, they don't know what you know. So when you go and say something bad about their people, they don't know that history, or they don't accept that history. So you have to first show them why you have issues with these characters. Then regardless if they choose to accept or reject, but at least now they know what your issue is. And if you show them, listen, this is not Shia books I'm talking about, it's in Sunni historical books, it's there. It's not, we haven't made this up.
Just as a small disclaimer, I would say, we have no right to tell people, you have no right, you haven't got no right to say to people, you haven't got the right to take your religion from individual XYZ. You have every right to take your religion from whoever you choose to do so, whether you take it from Abu Bakr, Umar, or anyone. But the point is, if we choose not to take our religion from them, if we choose not to, we have also every right in that aspect. That's the key aspect that we should be pressing towards all sects in Islam, that everyone in every sect in Islam has the right to take their interpretation of the way they want to follow their religion from the people they want to. This is what every single sect has to come united on if we want unity between our sects.
Now, in terms of Sayyid Ali, do you think I should move on to because I wanted to talk a little bit about Imam Ali's wars in his life, in terms of, in his Khilafah, in terms of what the prophetic evidence is for his wars from Sunni literature. Should I move to that? Is that cool? So we know. Say again. Time does justice. Yeah. What do we have? Are we done with time? I can see. Okay, Sukhni. Thank you. Alright, cool. When Imam Ali finally became the Khalif, even though, like for us, remember, again, technicality, the Prophet, Allah chose him already. It doesn't matter when he becomes it, he was already the Khalif from the beginning. But when he was actually chosen by the people, when they finally accepted him as the fourth, when he was